Weiss for his statement. In introducing him earlier, I made one mistake, and I want to make a correction. His first degree was not from Berkeley, but from UCLA. As you know, there's some fraternal rivalry between Berkeley and UCLA. I've invited a good friend, the ambassador of Israel to Singapore and Timor-Leste, Amira Arnon, to argue the opposite case. But let me just say a few words about Ambassador Arnon. She's had a very distinguished career in the Israeli Foreign Service. Prior to that, she earned a degree, first from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and then a master's degree from Haifa University. For those of you who may not know, I want to tell Ambassador Arnon publicly that Singapore made a contribution to the founding of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. I think many Singaporeans don't know this. In 1932, Albert Einstein, some say the greatest scientist of the 20th century, came to Singapore to raise funds for the establishment of the Hebrew University. And very substantial contributions were made by the Jewish community in Singapore to the founding of your alma mater. And as for Haifa, I don't know whether there are any Baha'is here, but if there are any Baha'is here, you would of course know that the mother temple of the Baha'i religion is not in Iran, because it's prohibited in Iran, but it is in Haifa. Also, I want to share one more secret with you about Ambassador Arnon. In Israel, unlike Singapore, women are conscripted, and they spend 1 year in national service. Ambassador Arnon was in the Israeli Air Force. I hope one day Singapore women will also be conscripted. And before coming to Singapore, Ambassador Arnon served as the Israeli ambassador to Macedonia, to Albania, and to Bosnia-Herzegovina. And she must have done very well because the government of Albania has conferred a medal on her. So Ambassador Arnon, please.
Ambassador Tomiko, I always say, who needs objective friends? And by the way, it's 2 years. We served 2 years in the army. Air Force. Thank you very much, Dr. Weiss, for introducing part of my arguments eventually, because you made a good point regarding our security, and I will adapt it later, and I will answer also to a few other arguments that you made, but that will be during the open discussion. But before I start my remarks, this is a good occasion to congratulate Ambassador Tomiko on his appointment as director of Tembusu College. He also told me what is the meaning of Tembusu. I admit I had no idea before. And I think that I'm very confident that under your guidance, this college will be very successful. And to those of you who do not know, Ambassador Tomiko is a well-known and admired figure in Singapore. I don't remember any place that I've been to, either it is in the sphere of the culture, the academic, the art. You know, Tommy is always there, either opening or giving the main lecture, and he's very well admired in Singapore. And this is why I'm sure that the forum, the Tembusu Forum, will be guided with wisdom, with emotions and good spirits. Good luck. I'll try to be very short and give only the highlights, because otherwise I can talk forever. So I would like to start by saying that contrary to common knowledge, it is essential that I will open my remarks by emphasizing that Israel does not reject the Palestinian state. In fact, Israel's position is that the solution to the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians should be found by an establishment of two states. a Jewish state and a Palestinian state living in peace side by side. So this is something that everybody should remember. However, when it comes to explain or to try to address the reasons why Israel rejects the recognition of a Palestinian state at the UN, I will try to elaborate just a few of those objections. Israel opposes the unilateral step that the Palestinians have chosen. Palestinians applied to the UN and claimed to be recognized as a full member state at the UN is against our position. We think that only through direct negotiation a solution can be found, as well as the core issues. Some of them were mentioned by Dr. Weiss before. A unilateral declaration of Palestinian statehood undermines internationally recognized frameworks for the Middle East peace process. Among them, I will just mention resolutions of the UN 242, 338, the roadmap, and the quartet statement. All of them clearly called for a mutually agreed resolution of the conflict. In addition, the bid of the Palestinians at the UN undermines agreements reached between Israel and the Palestinians in the last 2 decades. Just to mention one, the interim agreement of '95, in which the agreement expressly prohibits unilateral action by either side to change the status of the West Bank and Gaza prior to a negotiated permanent status agreement. It is also essential to mention that even if a resolution regarding a Palestinian state will be reached at the UN, the Palestinians still will have to sit with the Israelis and discuss issues and problems that can be solved only between the two parties to the conflict. And when I say the core issues or the sensitive issues, I mean few of them. One is the security, which was well presented before. The other one would be the status of Jerusalem, refugees, water, and borders. This, and I just mentioned the main issues. There are some others which are in a lesser importance. And the core sensitive issues cannot be solved by a UN resolution, cannot be solved by recognition or premature recognition of the Palestinian state. There is another most significant issue that was not elaborated or mentioned so far, and I think it's worthwhile to mention. In preparation for its bid to the United Nations, the Palestinian Authority, headed by Mahmoud Abbas, reached and signed a reconciliation agreement with Hamas, which controls Gaza. However, this settlement or this agreement did not materialize on the ground. However, once a state, a Palestinian state, will be recognized by the UN, it will mean that the international community de facto recognize Hamas. Now, the position of Israel regarding Hamas is well known, but I will reiterate it again. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Not only that Hamas declares daily that Israel should be destroyed, but also launches almost daily tens of Qassam rockets and other Grad rockets on Israeli southern skirts of the state.